I used to believe love could survive anything. Claire and I were the type of couple people envied. We'd been married for 5 years, and before that we were college sweethearts. There was a rhythm to our relationship: coffee in the morning, texts during the day, dinner together, a movie before bed. Routine but comforting. Predictable maybe, but it worked. Or so I thought. Claire had always been ambitious, and I admired that about her. She worked in marketing at one of the biggest tech companies in the city. Smart, organized, and persuasive. She was the type of woman who could walk into a room and own it. I, on the other hand, ran a mid-sized digital agency. Nothing flashy, but it paid the bills, and I liked being my own boss. Then came the promotion. "I got it," she screamed, dancing around the living room one Friday night. "They picked me to be Adam Hartley's executive assistant." I smiled, genuinely happy for her at that moment. Adam was the regional director, known for being sharp, demanding, and, well, charming. I'd heard his name tossed around in Claire's conversations before, but I never paid much attention. He was just another corporate name in a world I didn't live in. "They said it's going to be intense," Claire added. "Late hours, lots of travel, but this could be the stepping stone to director in a year or two." "Wow," I said, pulling her into a hug. "I'm proud of you, babe." But deep down, I felt something twist. At first, things seemed fine. She started working later, yes, but she always came home. She'd tell me about projects, tight deadlines, how Adam pushed. The team hard but respected results. I noticed she stopped complaining about work stress. In fact, she seemed more alive, confident, energized. I wanted to believe it was because she loved the challenge. Then came the weekend calls. Saturday, strategy meetings. Sunday, client briefings. I'd wake up alone, her side of the bed cold. I'd ask questions and she'd answer, always with enough detail to sound real but vague enough to avoid follow-up. The distance between us wasn't physical at first. It was emotional. She laughed less at my jokes. She started hiding her phone screen when texting. Her kisses became shorter, her hugs one-armed. Still, I told myself, "You're being paranoid, Ethan. She's just busy. She loves you. Don't be doing that guy." But I couldn't shake the feeling. One night we were watching TV. Well, I was. Claire was on her phone, texting nonstop. I leaned over, pretending to look at the screen, when a message flashed on her smartwatch. "Can't stop thinking about yesterday." My heart froze. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to explode. I needed to be sure. So I waited until she went to shower and I tried checking her phone. Locked. New passcode, that was new. That night I lay in bed, wide awake, my mind spinning. What was yesterday? Why was she hiding messages? Was A really Adam? Was I just being insecure? The next day I casually brought up trust. "Do you think we've changed lately?" I asked over breakfast. She didn't look up from her phone. "What do you mean?" "I don't know, just feels like we don't talk as much," she shrugged. "We're both busy. Life happens." I nodded, but I felt the wall growing taller between us. The final straw came 2 weeks later. Claire said she had to fly to Boston for a weekend marketing retreat with Adam and the executive team. Something told me to check. I called her company's front desk pretending to be a client. The receptionist said, "Oh, Adam's out of town this weekend taking personal days." Personal days. So where was Claire really going? I took a risk. I didn't tell her. I waited until she left, then packed a small bag and followed her flight. I used miles to book the same hotel she told me she'd be staying in, but she never checked in there. Instead, I saw her at Hotel Bellevue, laughing with Adam as they handed their luggage to the concierge. She looked free, flirty. She had that glow she used to have after our date nights. And it wasn't for me. I didn't confront her. I just stood there, hidden behind a pillar in the lobby, feeling like my world was folding in on itself. I snapped a photo, not out of revenge, but because I needed proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined the distance, the lies, the subtle changes. I flew back home that night numb. When she returned 2 days later, she kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened. "Boston was good," she said. "Exhausting but productive." I looked at her and wondered, how long has this been going on? I didn't know whether I wanted to scream or cry, but one thing was clear. The life I thought we had was no longer real. I couldn't sleep that night. Even though Claire was just a few feet away in bed, breathing softly in her sleep, I felt like I was sharing the room with a stranger who had smiled at another man the way she used to smile at me. My mind replayed the moment in the hotel lobby again and again, her hand brushing Adam's arm, the way they laughed like they had a shared secret, the way she looked. Light, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Was that what I had become to her? A weight? The next morning, I didn't say anything. I watched her move around the kitchen like nothing had happened, like the world hadn't cracked open. Beneath us, she made coffee, scrolled through her phone, hummed a tune I didn't recognize. I wanted to scream. Instead, I waited for the right moment, for clarity, for strength, maybe for both. That evening, while she showered, I did something I never thought I'd do in my marriage. I picked up her phone. It was still locked, and I didn't know the new passcode. But I noticed something odd. On the home screen, next to the usual apps, was a new one. Telegram. Claire never used that. She was more of a WhatsApp and email person. I sat down at my laptop and Googled how to recover deleted Telegram messages. Not much came up. The platform was known for privacy, disappearing messages, secret chats. My stomach churned. I couldn't confront her without real proof, so I decided to do something invasive. I installed a monitoring app on our home Wi-Fi. Nothing harmful, just enough to see which devices accessed what apps and when. Over the next week, I watched a pattern form. Late at night, while I slept, Claire would get on Telegram for hours. She wasn't texting anyone else, just him. Always him. One night, while she was asleep, her smartwatch buzzed with a new notification. A brief preview popped up before fading. Miss you already. Next time can't come soon enough. I didn't take a screenshot. I didn't need to. That message was etched into my mind like a scar. The next morning, I decided I couldn't wait anymore. She was in the kitchen pouring orange juice when I dropped the hotel receipt on the counter. The one I'd gotten from Bellevue's front desk when I pretended to be her assistant asking for a duplicate. Her smile froze. The color drained from her face. "What's this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She didn't answer. "Claire," I said softer now, "who is Adam to you?" She opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. Her hands trembled. I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. "It wasn't supposed to be anything." "You lied to me," I said cold. "You told me you were in Boston. You said it was work." Tears welled up in her eyes. "It was work at first. He understood me. He listened. I felt seen. That stung. Like I hadn't been here every day trying. Like I hadn't loved her through every high and low. You slept with him?" She looked down. A pause. Then a small, broken nod. That nod shattered something inside me. She reached out. "Ethan, please." I stepped back. "I need space," I said, and I walked out. I didn't go far. I stayed at my best friend Marcus's apartment, crashing on his couch. He didn't ask many questions, just handed me a beer and said, "Whatever you need, man." The silence that followed was deafening. Claire tried calling, texting. She emailed long, desperate letters. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My head was a storm of rage, betrayal, sadness, and confusingly, grief. Because I wasn't just angry, I was mourning. Mourning the woman I thought I married, the trust we built, the memories that now felt like lies. Every kiss, every "I love you," every night we fell asleep wrapped in each other, tainted. And yet, I couldn't stop thinking about her either. I didn't tell anyone the full story. Not my family, not even Marcus. I was ashamed. Ashamed that I didn't see it coming. Ashamed that I still missed her. Late one night, about a week after I left, I got an email from Claire with no subject line. I opened it reluctantly. "Ethan, I won't make excuses. I betrayed your trust and I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please know, I've ended things with Adam. The moment you walked out, I realized what I was about to lose. I've started seeing a therapist. Not for you, for me. I need to figure out why I destroyed something good. I'll wait, however long it takes. But if this is goodbye, I understand. Just thank you for the years you gave me. Claire. I stared at that message for a long time. She didn't beg. She didn't justify. She just owned it. I didn't know what to do with that. Part of me wanted to write back something cruel. Another part wanted to cry. I did neither. I closed my laptop. But something inside me shifted. This wasn't black and white anymore. Yes, she cheated. Yes, she lied. But she was also human, broken, regretful, and somehow, despite everything, I still felt something for her. Was it love or just habit? I didn't know. But I was beginning to realize this wasn't just about her mistake. It was about what I wanted now, who I wanted to be after the wreckage. 2 weeks passed. 2 long, hollow weeks of silence, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. I'd gone through every stage: rage, denial, grief, even moments of irrational hope. Some nights I stared at the ceiling until sunrise. Other nights, I read Claire's email over and over, searching for sincerity in every sentence. And I found it. That's what scared me the most. She sounded real, raw, regretful. But could I trust her again? One Thursday evening, I stood in front of my apartment window, watching the city lights flicker below. Behind me, Marcus was on the couch playing Xbox, pretending not to be worried about me. "You're not sleeping," he said finally. "I'm fine," I replied, not looking at him. "Man, look, cheating is a deal breaker for most people. But if it's not for you, that's okay too. Just make sure it's your choice, not guilt, not pressure." I turned around, surprised. "You're not judging me?" He shrugged. "You loved her, right? Hell, maybe you still do. Don't throw yourself away trying to follow some playbook of what a man's supposed to do." His words hit me harder than I expected. That night I made a decision. I was going to see her, not to forgive, not to forget, just to talk, to face the truth without the fog of shock clouding everything. I texted, "Hurrah, can we talk?" "Tomorrow night, our apartment." The reply came almost instantly. "Yes, thank you." The next evening, I stood at the door of what used to be our shared home. I hadn't been back since I left. My key still worked. As I stepped inside, the familiar scent of lavender and coffee hit me like a memory I wasn't ready for. Claire stood in the living room. She looked different, not in the way you'd expect. She wasn't dressed to impress or trying to look apologetically pathetic. She was just there, raw, no makeup, hair tied back, a hoodie and sweatpants. Vulnerable. "Hey," she said softly. "Hi." We stood there for a moment. Then I walked in, sat on the edge of the couch. She didn't sit. "I'm not going to ask you to stay," she said, voice trembling. "I just want you to hear me out. Then you can walk out that door and never see me again, if that's what you need." I nodded. She took a deep breath. "Didn't cheat because I stopped loving you. I cheated because I stopped loving myself. For a while, I felt invisible. Like I was performing this perfect life instead of living it. You were busy with your agency. I was stressed with work. Adam, he noticed me, listened, made me feel seen. And I let that become something more." She sat down across from me now. "I don't blame you, Ethan. I don't think you did anything wrong. This was my failure, my cowardice. And the second I saw the look on your face when you dropped that hotel receipt, I knew what I'd lost." Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. I ended it with Adam immediately. Told HR, transferred departments. "I've been in therapy since you left, twice a week." I swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell me you were unhappy?" "I didn't know I was," she said. "Not until I started lying. And by then I was already halfway off the cliff." Silence. I stared at the rug between us, patterns blurring. "I can't pretend this didn't break something in me," I finally said. "I see you differently now." "I know. I hesitated. I also know people make mistakes, and not all mistakes define who we are forever. She looked at me, then really looked. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't know if I can forgive you, but I'm willing to try, on my terms. Claire nodded slowly. I won't expect anything. I just want to do the work. Even if we don't end up together, I want to be someone better because of this. I stood up. She did too. Then we start with honesty, I said. No secrets, no lies, she agreed. We stood awkwardly for a moment. Then I did something unexpected. I hugged her. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't passionate. It was broken and heavy and honest. She cried into my shoulder, whispering, "I'm sorry," again and again. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was surfacing. That night, I didn't stay. I went back to Marcus's, but I left with something I hadn't felt in weeks: clarity. This wasn't about forgetting what she'd done. It wasn't about rushing back into something broken. It was about understanding, accountability, and choice. I didn't owe her forgiveness, but I owed myself the right to decide what healing looked like, and maybe, just maybe, the healing included her. Healing doesn't happen in a straight line. I didn't just wake up one day and say, "Okay, I'm over it." The pain lingered. The doubts clung to me like shadows. Some mornings I felt okay, even optimistic. Other days, I questioned everything: my judgment, her remorse, my own strength. But I'd made a choice. I wasn't going to let her betrayal define me. I had to rebuild myself, not just for the sake of my marriage, but for the sake of my identity. So I started with the basics. I committed to therapy. At first, I didn't want to go. The idea of sitting in a room with a stranger, opening up about something so intimate, felt uncomfortable. But Marcus kept nudging me. "You keep trying to fix this by yourself," he said. "But sometimes you need tools. Therapy gives you those tools." So I went, and surprisingly, I liked it. My therapist, Daniel, didn't tell me what to do. He didn't offer quick fixes or fluffy encouragement. Instead, he asked the right questions. He made me dig into the roots: why Claire's betrayal hurt the way it did, why I still couldn't let go, and why a part of me still wanted her back. "You're grieving," he said in our third session. "But not just for her. You're grieving for the version of yourself that believed love made you invincible." That hit hard. He was right. I wasn't just mourning my wife. I was mourning the me I used to be. So I decided to rediscover him. Picked up boxing. It wasn't about violence, it was about discipline, focus, control. I liked the feeling of sweat dripping down my face, gloves slamming into the bag, the rhythmic sound of my breath sinking with each strike. It helped silence the chaos in my head. I also dug into an old project I'd shelved years ago, a tech startup idea I once pitched to Claire before we got married. Back then we were broke and overwhelmed, and she said, "Maybe one day." That day had finally come. I poured myself into the work. Late nights, endless revisions, networking events, pitch calls, and to my surprise, people were interested. I got my first investor 3 months in, then a second. Before long, we were in beta testing. The best part? I didn't tell Claire, not out of spite, but because this was mine. A piece of me untouched by the wreckage. That doesn't mean she wasn't trying. She texted occasionally, not to beg or guilt me, but just to check in. Sometimes a quote from her therapy sessions. Sometimes a photo of our cat, Muffin, asleep on my side of the bed. Once she sent me a video of our wedding dance with a note, "Still the best 3 minutes of my life." I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because I wasn't ready. Then one rainy Saturday afternoon, I ran into her. I was at a bookstore downtown, flipping through a biography, when I heard someone behind me whisper, "Ethan." I turned around. Claire. She was holding a paperback and wearing a coat too big for her frame. She looked thinner. Her eyes had that same tired look I'd seen the night I confronted her. But there was something else now. Something calmer. Grounded. "Hi," I said. "Hi." We stood there for a moment. Then she offered a nervous smile. I've been going to that bookstore near your office every Friday, hoping to bump into you. I raised an eyebrow. Seriously? She laughed. Yeah. I figured if fate wanted to give me a chance, it would. Well, I said, I guess fate showed up late. She paused. How have you been? I thought about lying. Saying I was great, thriving, totally moved on, but that wasn't fair to either of us. I've been rebuilding, I said honestly. She nodded. Me too. Then she pulled something from her bag, a worn leather notebook. I didn't plan to show you this, but since you're here, she handed it to me. What is it? I started writing letters to you after you left. I knew I couldn't send them, but I needed to say things. Get them out. I opened the notebook. Inside were dated entries, some long, some just a few lines. One read, Ethan, today I saw a couple at the park. They looked like us before I messed everything up. I wanted to scream, I miss your laugh. Another, I don't deserve you, I know that. But if I could go back to the night before it happened, I would hold your hand and tell you everything instead. I closed the notebook slowly. I didn't expect this, I said. I know, she whispered. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. I've been doing the work. And not for you. For me. There was a bench nearby. I gestured. Toward it. Want to sit? We did. We didn't talk about the affair. We didn't rehash the pain. Instead, we talked like two old friends catching up. We laughed. We remembered little things. Inside jokes, vacations, moments I'd forgotten I still treasured. As the rain softened to a drizzle, Claire looked at me and said, I still love you, but I understand if that's not enough. I stared at her, and, for the first time, I didn't see the woman who betrayed me. I saw the woman who had fallen apart and was trying to piece herself back together, one hard-earned moment at a time. And strangely, I saw myself in her. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew this. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just open to whatever came next. There's no manual for this part. No one teaches you how to handle love after betrayal. It's either once a cheater, always a cheater, or forgive and forget. But life's messier than that. The heart doesn't operate in absolutes. After that rainy afternoon at the bookstore, I couldn't stop thinking about Claire. Not just the affair, but the way she looked at me. Vulnerable, human, honest. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't see her as the villain in my story. I saw her as someone who had fallen and was trying desperately to climb back up. The next week, I spoke to Daniel, my therapist, about it. I'm scared, I admitted. Scared that I'll look weak, that I'll be the idiot who took her. Back, he leaned forward. You know what I think? What? I think strength isn't about walking away. It's about deciding what matters most to you, and standing by that decision even if the world doesn't understand. Those words stuck, so I made the hardest decision of my life. I called Claire. We met at a small cafe on 6th Street, far from any place we used to frequent. Neutral ground. She showed up early, looking nervous, clutching a steaming cup of chamomile tea. Thanks for coming, she said, standing awkwardly as I approached. Yeah, I nodded, sitting down. We should talk. She didn't speak, just waited. I took a deep breath. I don't know if I can ever go back to what we were, I began. But I also don't want to live in anger forever. I've changed, you've changed, so maybe we start from zero. Her eyes widened. You mean not married, I interrupted. Not rushed, just us, dating. Like strangers learning each other again. She smiled, a smile full of disbelief, hope, and heartbreak all at once. I'd like that, she whispered. And so we began. We didn't tell anyone at first. No grand declarations, no promises. Just quiet evenings, walks, in the park, conversations over coffee. Sometimes we met at bookstores, sometimes at my startup office after hours, where she'd bring snacks and sit while I worked. It felt strange at first, like balancing on a wire over a canyon of memory. Every time she reached for my hand, I felt both warmth and wariness. But the more we talked, the more I realized something powerful. Claire wasn't trying to erase the past. She was trying to learn from it. She never dodged my questions, never made excuses. She'd answer with complete honesty, even when it hurt. Yes, I kissed him in his office, she once told me. It wasn't planned. I was venting about us, and he leaned in, and I didn't pull away. But even in that moment, it felt hollow. Did you love him? No, she said. I loved how he made me feel for a while, but it wasn't real. We set boundaries. No staying over. No labels. And definitely no physical intimacy for the first few months. I needed space to feel like I wasn't falling back into the old rhythm just because it was comfortable. And surprisingly, she respected that. Around the 3-month mark, I told Marcus. He looked stunned for a moment, then said, "You've always been the guy who follows his gut. If this feels right, do it. Just don't lose yourself again." And that was the key. I wasn't going back to her because I couldn't move on. I was going back to her because I had moved on. From the pain, the anger, the insecurity. Now I was choosing her with my eyes wide open. By month 4, I started sleeping over again. Not every night. Just once or twice a week. We cooked together, laughed like we used to. We even argued about dishes, about who picked the movie, about politics. But the arguments were different now. Less about ego, more about understanding. One night, while cleaning up after dinner, she turned to me and said, "Do you ever think we'll really make it?" I paused. "I don't know, but I think we're trying in a way we never did before." She nodded. Then, she said something I'll never forget. "I used to think love meant never messing up, but now I think love means being willing to clean up the mess, even if you made it." I stared at her, unsure how to respond. Because for once I agreed with her. A few weeks later, she invited me to a support group she'd been attending. It was for couples trying to rebuild after infidelity. I was hesitant. The idea of sitting in a circle, listening to strangers talk about their affairs felt invasive. But I went, and it changed everything. I met men who had been betrayed worse than I had, and stayed. I met women who had cheated and carried the guilt like a chain around their necks. I saw raw pain, but I also saw hope, and most of all, I saw that we weren't alone. That night, driving home, I looked at Claire. "Do you still think about him?" I asked, needing to know. She was quiet for a moment, then shook her head. "No, not anymore. Not even a little." And I believed her. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of her answer. I was ready to trust again. Not because she earned it, but because I was willing to give it. Some stories come full circle in ways you never expect. 6 months into dating Claire again, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No lightning bolts, no teary declarations. Just peace. The kind of peace that comes from choosing someone after knowing every part of them. The beautiful, the broken, the ugly, and still saying, "Yes, I see you." We were lying on the couch one night, feet tangled, a documentary playing in the background, when she asked, "Do you remember that weekend in Vermont right after we got engaged?" I smiled. "The B&B with the creepy old paintings?" She laughed. "Yes, that place. But also the night we stayed up talking about what kind of people we wanted to become." I nodded. "You said you wanted to help people, that you never wanted to work just for a paycheck." "Yeah," she whispered. "I think I'm finally doing that." That's when she told me. She'd been training part-time to become a couples counselor, not for work, not for validation, but because she'd seen firsthand what betrayal could do and how hard the road back really was. At first, I didn't know what to say. "You want to help people? Like us?" I asked. She nodded. "Not to convince them to stay, just to help them see the whole truth, the kind that hurts but also heals." I was stunned. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have trusted her to give anyone advice about anything. But now I saw a different version of Claire, one who wasn't running from her mistakes, but facing them head on, one who had fallen, apart and had stitched herself back together, thread by thread. I told her I was proud of her. She cried. A few weeks later, we were at her apartment, still hers, not ours yet, when she said, "I want to show you something." She pulled a worn leather journal from her closet, the same one she'd shown me months earlier at the bookstore. Only this time she handed it to me with the back cover bookmarked. "Start at the end," she said. I flipped to the last few pages. "Ethan, if you're reading this, it means you didn't give up on me. Or maybe you just wanted closure. Either way, I'm grateful. I've spent every day since you left trying to understand not just what I did, but why I did it. And the truth is, I was scared. Scared of feeling average. Scared of fading. Scared you'd eventually stop choosing me. So I made the worst mistake of my life, but what haunts me isn't the affair. It's the memory of your silence after you found out. It was louder than any scream. I had to stop reading for a moment. My chest felt tight, my throat dry. She reached out and gently touched my hand. There's more. I turned the page. I don't know if we'll make it, but I know this. I will never love anyone the way I love you because you saw every part of me, even the worst, and you didn't look away. That kind of love? It's once in a lifetime. I looked at her. Her eyes met mine. And in that moment, something inside me let go. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't afraid. I was ready. The following week, I took her to the first restaurant we ever went to after moving in together. A little Italian spot with bad lighting and the best tiramisu in town. We sat in the same booth, ordered the same wine, even laughed about how nervous we both were back then. When dessert came, I slid a small box across the table. Her eyes widened. "Ethan." "It's not what you think," I said, smiling. "It's not a ring, not yet." She opened it. Inside was a key. "To my place," I said. "No pressure, no deadline, just when you're ready." She looked down at the key like it was a... And then she whispered, "I've been ready for a long time." A month later, she moved in. It wasn't a fairy tale. We still had our moments, triggers, tension, lingering fears. But now we had tools. We had patience. We had each other's full attention. And something else happened, something I didn't see coming. I fell in love with her all over again. Not with the version of Claire I married years ago, but with this new Claire. The one who had faced her demons. The one who'd lost everything and fought to earn it back. Not by pleading, but by changing. I told Daniel about it in our final therapy session. He smiled. "I think your story will help more people than you realize," he said. "I don't know." I shrugged. "It's not exactly traditional." "No," he replied, "it's honest, and that's rare." One morning I came home from a client meeting and found Claire sitting at the kitchen table, holding her laptop. She looked up and said, "I just got my certification. I'm officially a licensed couples therapist." I froze, then grinned. "That's incredible. I want to specialize in rebuilding after betrayal," she said. "Maybe even start a podcast one day." "People will judge," I warned. She nodded. "Let them. The ones who need help won't." And in that moment I realized we weren't just surviving, we were thriving together. If you had asked me a year ago where I'd be now, I wouldn't have had an answer. I thought my story had ended the day Claire cheated on me. I thought everything we had built, years of love, laughter, shared dreams, was reduced to a pile of broken glass too sharp to walk through. But here, I am, still walking, not bleeding, still with her. Not because I forgot what happened, but because I remembered who we were, and more importantly, who we could still become. It started on a Sunday morning. Claire and I were having breakfast on the balcony. The sky was soft and gray. She had a blanket wrapped around her, her hair messy, her coffee mug steaming. I had just finished editing a proposal for a new client when she said, out of nowhere, "I want to marry you again." I looked up. She wasn't smiling. She was serious, clear-eyed, honest. "I don't mean some big ceremony," she continued. "I just want to stand in front of you and say, I choose you, again, After everything. I didn't speak for a moment. I reached across the table, took her hand and said, "Then let's do it." We kept it simple. No venue, no big guest list, no white dress or tuxedo. Just us and a handful of close friends and family. Marcus officiated. We stood barefoot in a garden behind his house, surrounded by soft music, autumn leaves, and the smell of apple cider in the air. Claire wore a pale blue dress. I wore the same watch I had the day we first got married, ironically a gift from her. When it was time to say our vows, Claire went first. She didn't pull out a piece of paper. She just looked at me and said, "The first time I married you, I did it with a heart full of hope. The second time, I do it with a heart full of truth. I've seen what I'm capable of, both the good and the ugly, and you've seen it too. And still you're here. You didn't choose the perfect version of me. You chose the real one. And for the rest of my life, I'll choose you back." I didn't cry. Until I started mine. I never thought we'd be standing here again. But I'm glad we are. Because now, I don't just love you, I understand you. And somehow, that feels even more powerful. I know love doesn't protect us from pain, but it gives us the courage to keep showing up. And that's what I promise. To keep showing up for you, every day, no matter what. We kissed, and just like that, we were married. Again, our life now isn't perfect. Sometimes people online ask about our story, especially after Claire started her podcast, Second Chances, Real Love. We debated telling the full truth, whether it was wise, whether we were inviting judgment, but in the end, we shared it. Not for validation, for connection. The first episode she released was titled, "I Cheated on My Husband. He Took Me Back. Here's what it really cost us." She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't play the victim. And surprisingly, people listened. Thousands of downloads in the first week. Messages from couples around the world. Some angry, some inspired, some just relieved to know they weren't alone. We started doing live Q&As, workshops. She spoke at events. I even joined her once as a guest, sharing my perspective. Not as the guy who got cheated on, but as the man who chose a new kind of love. One with scars, but also with strength. We still have rituals. Every Saturday we cook together and dance in the kitchen. Every month we write each other a letter, sometimes a full page, sometimes just a sentence. We keep them in a box labeled proof. Proof that we're still trying, still choosing, still in it. I won't lie and say I never think about what happened. There are moments, triggers, but the difference now. We talk about them, we don't hide anymore. Not from each other, not from ourselves. And because of that, I trust her in a way I never thought possible. Not blindly, but deeply. Because this version of us, it's built on something far more durable than perfection. It's built on truth. Sometimes people ask me, do you regret taking her back? And my answer is always the same. No, because I didn't take her back. I took us forward, and I wouldn't trade this version of our love for anything.